Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to episode 4 of Fixin the Vixen. You might remember the last episode when we got the clutch working. If you need a refresher, click the link in the top corner. We had some hiccups, but it all worked out in the end. Now that we got this baby running and driving, our next challenge is going to be finding out why it doesn't want to stop. Let's carefully drive the Vixen around to the back of the shop and get it set up on the hoist. But first, let us take a moment to appreciate that sweet M21 tractor noise. Now, I know what you're thinking. This thing is way too big and heavy to get up on that hoist. I was worried about that too, but fear not. I did my research and it turns out the Vixen isn't as heavy as you might think. It has a curb weight of only 5,100 pounds. That's actually lighter than the new G90 M5 by over 250 pounds. I'm not even exaggerating. Look it up. Our hoists are rated to lift 10,000 pounds, so we're good on that front. Now that it's up on the hoist, we can have our first proper look at it from underneath. A quick check of the suspension, and now we can really admire just how weird this thing is. The bottom is mostly flat, covered with under panels to help with aerodynamics. I think that's pretty cool. The layout of this Vixen goes against everything I've learned in health class. I'm used to BMWs, so seeing an engine in the back mated to a transaxle is still strange to me. Also, the fact that it's a BMW inline 6 keeps tripping me up, because it's pointed backwards so the intake and exhaust are the wrong side, at least from what I'm used to. Kinda confusing, but I'll get used to it eventually. After a quick inspection, I think we found the source of our braking problem. Looks like we got some fluid coming out of the left rear wheel. Let's pull it apart and see what's going on. While I love to call the Vixen a BMW, it actually borrows a lot more of its parts from GM. These rear brakes are a great example of that. They come straight off a G20. Not the BMW G20, the old Chevy van G20 from the 80s. Being that they are brakes from an old van, it's no surprise that we're dealing with drum brakes here. Let's pull off the drum and I think we should find the answers we're looking for. Honestly, I still to this day can never figure out which way I have to turn the adjuster wheel to release the shoes from the drum. My trick is to just turn it all the way, and it either comes right off or it'll get more stuck. If it's stuck, then I'll just go the other way. Might not be the most efficient way to do it, but it works. Now that I've finally got the drum off, it's clear that the brake cylinder is leaking. There's the problem. Another reason I'm thankful the Vixen shares parts with GM is because of the price. If these were BMW brakes, they'd be a bit more expensive. First, I'll clean the area with brake cleaner to spray off all the brake dust and brake fluid that's been soaking everything in here. Also, when doing drum brakes, it's never a bad idea to wear eye protection. The springs are usually on there pretty tight, and the last thing you would want is for one to go flying into your eye. Another tip is to take a lot of pictures when replacing brake drums, because there's a lot of small parts and it can be really hard to remember how they all go back together.
I didn't even bring my camera today.
Reese did all of that works, but just... Now I've got the brakes partially disassembled, I remember that I have to pull off the brake cylinder. It's held on by a brake fitting that secures the brake line, and what I thought were two 10mm bolts holding the cylinder in place. Surprisingly, for being on there nearly 40 years, the fitting came off without too much of a fight. Believe me, I've worked on cars that were not even 5 years old that have been completely seized. So this is nice. Now for the bolts holding the brake cylinder. I used a 10mm here, and it worked for the first one, although you can tell it's not really right because the socket was on there pretty loose. The other side I had no luck with though, unfortunately. It was tight. The 10 was starting to round the bolt off and 9mm was too small to fit over. So I'm off to my secret coffee tin of standard sockets, where I found a 3/8 socket that's just between 9 and 10. This one did the trick. When I posted the short form version of this video, I had a lot of people asking me in the comments, why don't you just change it to disc brakes? Well yeah, that is possible, I'm sure you could do it, but the drum brakes have been fine, they've been working for 40 years, I don't need this thing to stop on a dime, I'm sure it'll brake fine. I don't plan on really taking it to the track, unless they let me. So yeah, if you still disagree with my decision here, we can argue about it in the comments. Or, better yet, you can donate to my brake disc fund. Once it's all apart, I'll do my best to clean everything up. The new formula of brake cleaner that we got here in Canada isn't really good for anything, to be honest, but that's a story for another day. Swap some parts over, and the new brake cylinder goes right in. I have a new set of shoes here going on. The old ones had a lot of meat still left on them, but they were soaked with brake fluid, so they had to go. struggled a bit putting it all back together because, hey, I'm not doing brake drums every day, so I think I did a decent job. Couple springs on backwards, but I fixed that later. Now that the brakes are back together, it's time to bleed the system to remove any air. To do that first, I'll open up the frunk. And this part isn't really necessary, but I like to siphon out all the old brake fluid because I don't know how old this stuff is, so I'd rather start with fresh fluid. Really, brake fluid you should replace every 2 years because it absorbs moisture and you don't want water in your brake fluid. Top the reservoir up and pump the brakes, then open the bleed screw at the cylinder. If you guys want a more detailed video about this, let me know in the comments and I'll see what I can do. Put the wheels back on and it's time to test drive and make sure everything is okay. I know I'll get comments about this. Yes, I did go and replace the other side too, guys. Don't worry. I just got tired of filming at this point, but it's always a good idea to do brakes in pairs. Looks like our job was successful. Now she goes and she stops. The front end seems a little bouncy, but that will be a problem for another episode. Thanks for watching and we'll see you guys next time.